You are doing far better than you think, bro. Far better. You know, when I look back in hindsight, the things that I have in my possession currently are precisely the things that I desired to have a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And in fact, the lifestyle, more particularly the lifestyle that I am living right now, is more consistent with my vision that I had up on my mood boards when I was living in my father's home. I'm not sure if you ever do that, those vision boards, those kind of wooden cork vision boards where you put up and assemble this very elaborate visual cues of what is your North Star, what you're trying to articulate yourself to go towards. And I had pictures up there of me having my own place, you know, living by my own means, completely independent, you know, not even having any roommates or, you know, having to flat share with everybody, get up when I want, go to bed when I want, make my meals at my own discretion, choose my meals at my own discretion, work at my own discretion. There were a couple words that you would have heard me say, because they're some of my favorite words that I had up on my mood board. Agency is one of those words. Also synonyms of agency: control, personal self-government. There are some other synonyms, but I'm sure you get the idea by now. Other items, I mean, having I'm a big fan of technology. I think my Achilles heel is always wanting the latest camera gear and microphones and you know, laptops and tablets and all these things. That's my Achilles heel. I'm not, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit that. I certainly overindulge in that area from time to time, and that I can be seen. Well, somebody's crashed. You can't park there, mate. That's British humour for you. Pardon me. What was I talking about? Technology. Yes, my Achilles heel, something that I'm not too proud to admit. I'm certainly not ashamed of it, but I'm just a fan of being creative, and the tools that allow me to facilitate that creativity usually come in the form of technology, you know, and having the latest you know, computers and things like that. I've decided though, this is going to be my last time in investing anything. You know, I have the latest gear now, and I need to focus on actually using the gear to its full creative capacity, as opposed to replacing it with something else in the next month or two, or when Apple does its next drop. What about your physique? What about your temperament? How has that changed over the last 1 to 2 years? Hopefully it's gone in a positive direction. Or are you still struggling and grappling with the same kind of battles? You know, that's a very, very telltale sign from me that if you are in the same place you were last year, then you're resting on your laurels. You are not pushing the envelope. You are not testing yourself and actually consulting with the problem that is at hand. Your life is very seasonal, you will notice. There'll be different seasons that you enter, be it yearly, be it, you know, every quarter, you know, every 3 months, every 6 months, where you recognize there is a particular piece of your lifestyle or personality that you are trying to work on, trying to evolve, and trying to move past. So I'll take myself, for example. One of the ones that I was in a deep season. It was a long dark winter was lust for me, and that shouldn't come as a surprise to many of you who are familiar with my content, that lust has been something that I struggled with for many years. And credit to my previous point, I found myself year after year looking back when I reviewed my goals and I talked about or thought about what I wanted to achieve, looking at that moment and going, well, this time last year you said you'd be dealing with lust, Joseph. You said you'd make more of an effort to dispense with actions and habits such as fawning over women in the gym, such as going out to the clubs and the bars and the pubs and ogling women and chatting up women and generally trying to use women as a means for sexual gratification. This individual in front of me cannot drive. The practices and actions, there's several different forms of lust, and I'll kind of break these up into more palatable steps for you, because again, it wasn't just for me the latter part, which is the actions that can be seen as an outsider, as this individual's very lustful, he's in desire, he's in craving, he's constantly leaving his friends and trying to chat up women and again purely use them as a means to gratify himself in the sexual dimension, but also a mental kind of lust as well. I found, as I started to take steps towards mitigating those actions, that I would spend hours and hours poring over mental ideas and fantasies that would satiate me in that regard. And it's a really fruitless endeavor. It takes up so much cognitive capacity, so much RAM, which again for fruitless purposes, where that could otherwise be allocated on other tasks. And even if you were in the gym, or you were reading, or you were writing, it's like my brain would be fragmented, my psyche would be fragmented, and I would be doing the task at hand, but at the same time I would be indulging this notion of fantasy, and I couldn't quite be present with what I was doing, because my mind was formulating a plan and an idea on how I could exercise that fantasy, how I could realize it, how I could release from it. So I sat down after a year and I actually said to myself, well, I don't want to be in this position this time next year. I want to formulate something, a system that will allow me to deviate from the season of lust and enter into a new spring of another particular area of my life that I need to work on. And it's never complete. It really is never complete. I think one of the biggest problems in the industry that I dip my toes in, and the literature that I share with you, gentlemen, and the philosophy that I try to espouse to you, is that the notion of perfection, of enlightenment, isn't something that presently exists in the human condition. It's not commensurate with the human condition. What I mean by that is rarely do we see examples in our personal lives, maybe our friends or larger social circles, that are exemplary of this notion of perfection, of enlightenment, this perfect person. Even the individual that presents himself, again, you kind of only view me from one particular perspective, which is through your phone, through your computer, through your tablet, through your TV lens, and you rarely get to see what's behind me. And what's behind me isn't always perfection, In full transparency, I was previously just transparent about, my spending behavior in regards to technology is not something that I like to freely share. I will equally say my spending behavior on maybe takeaway food isn't something that I would presently like to share. I try to make myself feel less ashamed by making the argument that the most of the takeout food that I order is more healthy than the normal person, not KFCs or McDonald's and chicken nuggets and all that bullshit. But clean cuts of meat, grilled chicken is a big favorite of mine. Sushi equally is high up there on the list. But generally, when I'm trying to advocate a lifestyle and a nutritional choice that is more commensurate with more, I suppose, ketogenic, carnivore, and overall more natural, raw and unprocessed foods, it is provoking me a little bit of hypocrisy, I guess you could say. But maybe on that particular point, the 80-20 rule is a rule that I believe is very, very valuable. I believe if you're eating 80% of the time, as you should, then 20% of the time you can allow yourself a little bit of freedom to indulge. And in that way, is that I really don't want this to turn into a what would you say? You know what's really a challenge for me, gentlemen, is the delicate balance between revealing to you the reality of how most people live, in that they will have their indulgences, they will have their pleasures, they will have their their quirks, their rough edges. But at the same time, that there is something for me in I don't want you to come away from this video or this point with the idea that these edges are holistically acceptable. Yeah? Holistically acceptable. In that, I think many people will say, oh, it's the reality of how we live, etc., etc. We shouldn't strive to be better than those moments. I don't believe that's right. I believe we should always be looking towards our inadequacies, even if they're, I don't know. I like to have a drink, a glass of wine every Friday night. If that is maybe your only outlet in life, if that is your only pleasure, your only indulgence, I mean, I probably picked a bad example because there's a lot of data that suggests that red wine is actually quite good for you. Maybe we substitute that for something like, I like to have, pints of beer. A lot of people will say, Joseph, well, leave me, let me have my pints of beer. What's life without any pleasure at all? And on one hand, my mind wants to go, if you've got all your ducks in a row, if you're doing what you need to do, then fine, have your pints of beer. Go crazy. But then there's another part of me. That goes, you can still improve upon that. You can still be better than that. Maybe you do substitute those pints of beer for a glass of red wine instead. Full of resveratrol, good for your heart, good for circulation. Because do you get where I'm coming from, gentlemen? Because there's a brand of individuals, and maybe I'll choose some examples here. So there's a brand of individuals like First Man and Hamza, and I think these individuals have tremendous values in their own right. But a lot of what they pitch comes from a very axiomatic, dogmatic, you are either a winner or a loser, and we know all the habits that are consistent with winners, such as going to the gym, meditation, talking about business, all these other things. And even if 90% of the time you are going to the gym, meditating, doing your qigong or yoga, if you're still playing RuneScape for 10% of your day, you're a loser. Yeah. So that's one brand of camp. You're either doing everything to improve and cutting out all the fat, or you're a loser. And then there's another brand, a more emergence brand, and there was an individual, I think his name's Jack Zhang or something like that, he cropped up on my Instagram feed, which I've now taken off my phone, by the way. I put it on the desktop instead because of the distractions. and he's this fitness influencer guy, and I've had to, I think I followed him previously, but I had to unfollow him because he was in this season of being too real. You know, he would post pictures of his big fat pot belly and you know, his facial chub and all his insecurities, and the posts were something to the affinity of, you know, this is what real fitness influencers won't tell you, won't show you. Here's the backstory. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to not look your best. And I think that goes too far in the other direction. You know, so you've got, if these things are meals, right? You've got one individual who wants you to eat you know, turkey, no fat at all, very, very lean, very, very dry, doesn't have the best flavor, but is very, very good for you in terms of its protein value. And you've got this other individual who's got a deep fried chicken tenders, you know, that taste really, really good, but they're terrible for you. They're terrible for you. And I'm trying to mediate between those two camps as somebody who's creating content for you guys. It's not that we shouldn't have our pleasures in life, but it's depending on our relationship with the pleasure. And it's also, for me, it's also about, how do I make substitutions? How do I make small changes with maybe the pleasures that I have in my life to make them a little bit better? So again, another thing that so I've never had a problem with snacking, really. I know a lot of people, a lot of men, especially when they're trying to lose weight, and women equally, have problems with eating. Yeah, and it's usually the bad snacks are like sweets. So I don't know, what's that, Sour Patch Kids? Is that I think that's a sweet. Some Sour Patch Kids, or crisps. Yeah, crisps will get you fat as hell. You know, deep fried. You know what I'm talking about. So I don't like crisps and I don't like sweets. It is really, I genuinely cannot remember the last. I never go and shop and go, oh, I need a packet of crisps, or oh, I need some sweet. That thought has never entered my mind. My problem is chocolate. I've weaned myself off the milk sugary chocolate and I'm onto dark cacao, like 75 to 85%. Yeah. But this is the idea, is maybe you start your journey with the crisps and you go, right, 80-20 rule, I'm going to have crisps on the weekend, you know. 5 days a week. In the weekday I'm not going to eat crisps, but on the weekend I'm gonna go and get my Doritos, or, you know, whatever is my thing. Fine. Now, if you're in the camp, the Zhang camp, the fitness influencer, the fat positive body influencer on the left hand side, you go, yeah, eat your crisps, good, feel good about it. You know, if you're exercising right 5 days of the week, feel good about it. You deserve it. You've earned it. But if you're in the Hamza first man, you're a loser. You're working 5 days of the week, and now you're undoing all your hard work on the week. You're a loser. You're a loser. My camp, which is in the middle somewhere, this is the masculine theory camp, is, well, pleasure again has a place in that 20%. Have your crisps, but do not delude yourself and trick yourself into thinking that what you're doing cannot still be improved upon in some way. Can you reduce the portion of your crisps? Yeah. Can you substitute your crisps for something low fat? Like, I know they do like vegetable crisps. Maybe you can have some vegetable crisps instead. Maybe you can have dark chocolate instead. How can you substitute your pleasures in life to still give you that relief, that endorphin rush, that dopamine rush, but the substitution be healthier and more conducive to your vision of the greatest version of you. Like, what about fruit instead? Instead of having the crisps, have some cherries or some berries, some blueberries, some apples, some pineapples, some mango, nature's fruits. That's nature's sweets. That's what I call fruit. Nature's sweets. Maybe that's an option. I'm really happy with the way that I've described that particular camp, because it's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one, because I kind of think it's the far right and the far left of influencers. The far right is, and I mean this with the greatest respect to First Man and Hamza, because I'm sure there's nuances in their content as well that I'm sure they would agree with what I'm saying here. I'm not saying they would disagree, but I'm just using them as an example. You've got the far right, any form of pleasure, any form of indulgence immediately makes you a loser. And then you've got the far left, which is this kind of body positive. I'm sure you've seen the one. It's like the fitness girls who show that they're bloating and their love handles, and whilst I think the sentiment behind that is a fairly good one, I think it demotivates people as opposed to motivates people, and that is generally not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Now, this person in front of me is drunk. They are swerving from left to right, from left to right. So the impetus behind this video was cultivating and nurturing. This guy's I'm so glad I'm behind him and he's not behind me. Cultivating and nourishing and pruning, like you would a tender garden, this element of gratitude in your life. It is so imperative, because the rate in which you cultivate and nurture gratitude is the same rate in which you become discontented with your present life circumstances. Think about that. Like, your quality of life can be deeply impacted and sabotaged by this notion that you are not cultivating a skill. I'm talking about a tangible skill. I'm not talking about an idea. I'm talking about a skill of gratitude. And that skill is cultivated by learning to find novelty in everyday small things, such as driving in your car. Enjoy. I do like driving. I do like speaking to you guys. So I'm very much in my element. The open road, as long as there's no drunk drivers around you. Being in control, feeling the vibration in the car, maybe putting on a podcast or an audiobook. Like the graciousness in which you accept that very small things which people overlook is the rate in which the universe looks at you and goes, wow, this individual is so content, so full. Think about this, so full, so brimming with happiness, with peace, with gratitude for the smallest things in life. Let's give him more. Let's give him more. Let's put more things in his orbit that he can pull towards him, because he's so dense. Think about this analogy. You become like a planet with mass, and the denser the mass of the planet, the more things gravitate towards you. They're pulled into your orbit. So that's what you want. That's what you're cultivating with this element of gratitude. You are becoming dense. You are gathering mass. And the universe looks at you and goes, this individual is so full, so whole. There is not a sense of incompleteness in his energy, that it only makes sense for him to bring more things into his orbit. Do you understand? This is base level esoteric occult knowledge. I remember when I was working a 9 to 5, I was honestly in ecstasy. And like you, this might sound like I'm embellishing, but I promise you I'm not. I used to have a commute for about an hour to get into my workplace in London, or Greater London, I should say. Many people would complain, and say, an hour in the car just driving, doing nothing. I remember I would put on audiobooks of David Data's The Superior Man, Jordan Peterson, podcasts by Brian Tracy, and I would also have a voice to text recorder in my car. So what I would do is I would listen to a chapter of David Data's Superior Man, and then I would talk like I'm talking to you now in the car. I've got my phone next to me, about a video idea that the chapter gave me, and then I would record it when I would get back home. So I would literally be laughing to myself, going, I can simultaneously commute, educate myself, and come up with ideas for videos and masculine theory all at the same time in that hour. I used to sometimes wish my commutes were longer because I would be so productive on my commute, and I would literally be just laughing to myself at how, because I thought I was a genius. I was like, I'm a genius. I'm getting so much done, while other people would be, listening to music in their car or otherwise being unproductive, having a cigarette. But I'm getting ahead. I used to look at everybody else in traffic and going, these guys aren't on my level. They aren't on my game. I'm leapfrogging you right now. You don't realize what you have. Like, if you're commuting into London, you have so much time right now that you can be doing other things and getting ahead, but you don't appreciate it. You don't get it. And that's the universe, man. Looking at you going, hey, Joseph gets it. He gets it. He's grateful. I would have a sing song now and again. I would put on some Tool and I would listen to Vicarious and head bash a little bit. And other people would be looking at me in traffic like, what is going on? I was deliriously happy. And that was a good job. That's the thing as well, is there's this big narrative, and I'm gonna take you back to First Man Hamza and this other individual analogy for this, is that you should not be content with a 9 to 5 job. I believe that's wrong. There are some 9 to 5 jobs I've had that were very good, and I only left them because I had kind of aspirations which were more personal and larger. Like, I've had very, very good bosses in the past, very good working circumstances, very good office culture, very good social culture, which I do actually miss from time to time. But there are many people, there is a brand of people, like the far right, self-improvement, I should probably stop saying far right, or right-leaning, would say that there is shame. You should be shameful if you have a 9 to 5. You should have a business. You should be an entrepreneur. Everybody can't be entrepreneurs. You can't all be entrepreneurs. I'm sorry. But that's okay. Because all you need to do is find a 9 to 5 where they respect you. There's an equal value exchange of your skills for compensation. That you like the social culture around it. Now that's okay. That's more than okay. And the graciousness in which you accept that 9 to 5 position is the rate in which the universe conspires to give you more, conspires to offer you more opportunity, conspires to allow you to leverage your position for more compensation or more responsibilities or more value exchange. Think about that. What about your social circle? I have a good group of friends that I could probably count on one hand. It's not a lot of people, but I would rather have a close-knit, strong relationship with a fragment of people than I would, be acquaintances with 100. And in that way, graciousness and the universe has blessed me to put more people in my orbit, and it's almost like you can choose whether or not you allow somebody to permeate your inner circle. You can have discernment. Think about that. Imagine being able to choose your friends and not have your friends choose you out of convenience or proximity. That's how you make friends when you're not an adult, when your cognitive powers haven't fully evolved. You only make friends because of who you sat next to in year 7, or when you went to university or college, or who was your roommate. Like, you didn't have a choice, but now you can. Have intention, because I tell you what, that decision is probably the most important decision that you make. The only one more important is who you choose as a life partner, is who you choose as your friends. There have been many times, I wouldn't say many times, I'd say a long time ago, when I moved more in the path to personal development, where I had to leave my friends from home because I recognized that they were weighing me down. There were some good characters in that group, I'm not going to lie to you, but most of them were drug addicts, smokers, weed smokers, pill poppers. And again, I actually have no problem with people doing drugs, more a problem with a relationship with people doing drugs. So I knew, like, every social dynamic was centered around the drug that they would be doing. So essentially we'd meet up and we'd do drugs. And I was getting very, very tired of that. It wasn't something that here's a really good exercise to discern whether or not the individuals or your friends around you are actually friends, is when you meet up together, do you center your meeting or social occasion around drinking, drugs, or anything in that bracket, or do you center it around health, business, good food? There's also something to be said about maybe the pursuit of promiscuity, factoring that in with the kind of drug, because again, a lot of you can make the point that women are their drugs. It's a very compelling point that you can kind of make. So I tell you what, it's a sobering exercise once you do it. Like, write people's names down. Like, I wrote my friends' names down. I'm not going to use their real name. I went, John, Luke, and then underneath I just went, when's the last time I saw them? What did we do? Or when's the last time I can remember going to the gym with one of my friends? Yeah. When's the last time I went and sat down and had a coffee with one of my friends and talked about something creative, about a business idea or a video idea, or if I take photographs, or if I post things on social media, or if I have a blog, or if I'm making websites, or if I have a cold email business, or if I'm selling a service or a product, or I'm writing a book. Think about how sobering is that to actually go, I was writing this down and going, I've never had those conversations with my friends. And then I realized, they're not friends, they're just people who were in close proximity with me, that we could meet up together and indulge in drink, indulge in drugs, indulge in in women. They're not friends, they're enablers. And then what you can do is, you can put yourselves in situations where you're more likely to connect with people who are your people. So one of the best things I've done is started going to the gym around 9 a.m. because people who have a 9 to 5, again, not that I'm not denigrating the 9 to 5 people here, but I want to connect with individuals who have a little bit more free time, who have businesses and entrepreneurs. Is the 9 to 5s go home, go to work for 9. So the gym starts emptying around 8:30, 8:45. And then the only people in there are individuals who can literally just pick and choose when they want to go to the gym. And I've connected with a lot of great people just by making that small change. There will be some students in there from time to time, but you can normally tell who they are. But really, really good idea. Like, go to coffee shops at 10 o'clock. Go to co-working spaces. In your city, wherever you are, there'll be a co-working space where people pay, rent every month to just go and work on their thing. It's a really, really good idea. If you want to play a particular sport, I connected with some individuals a couple of years ago now because I wanted to start doing five-a-side football. Because I love playing football. I'm not good at football. But I wanted to connect. I wanted to play, and I wanted to surround myself with individuals who like football. There's a big football culture here in the UK, and I also wanted to be able to go to watch some football and have a meal. Put yourselves in those environments and choose. You have to instigate. And you know what? Men are very, very simple creatures in that if you find a mutual point of connection, you could be. It's like you've been friends for the last 5 years. Like, you find somebody who supports the same football team as you. You've been friends for the last 10 years. That man will be the best man at your wedding. Literally. That is how easy it is to make friends with other men. Though you do have to be careful with the sports culture, because First Man did a video on this, which I have mixed feelings around, but he was saying that sports is very infantile. I get the point he's trying to come from. He's moving from, because if you take your typical sports fan, there will be big drinkers, and there is the archetypal idea of a sports fan is they're also very emotional. Like, if their team loses, like, the whole day is ruined. I don't like to get to a point where if my team loses that I'm emotionally compromised and I have to be in a bad mood for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. I do think that behavior is fairly infantile. But it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy sport. And you can't connect over a social occasion. I do more have a preference of maybe watching a football game that maybe doesn't involve my team if I'm going to make it social and not be tempted to be emotionally compromised. But there you go. You have that choice. You should have that discernment. I think it's okay to have, look, your friends will always have flaws. This is something else they don't talk about. Your friends will definitely have flaws. Like, one of my friends is a serial procrastinator with his business. Yeah, well, not his business. It's more of his hobby in creating videos. And he's always saying, "Oh, the video will be out soon." I'm like, it's been a week, still haven't seen the video. Oh, I'm playing around with the color. I'm playing around with the editing. I'm like, dude, you're such a perfectionist. You have to just get the reps in and get things out. Be wary of them, because they'll rub off on you. If your friends have more, let's say, serious traits than others, you might want to limit your exposure even more. So, for example, if you do have, I think it's fine to have friends that drink, or do drugs from time to time. As long as they're not drug addicts or alcoholics, I think that's fine. But I am not exposing myself. I'm not meeting up with these people every weekend, and certainly not to drink. In fact, here's something you can think about, is you can be a positive influence. You can be a real North Star for those guys to follow. In fact, you know what's, I don't like blowing my own horn here, but when I was old enough to start going to the gym, I was one of the first people in my friendship group to start actually going to the gym. And because of those newbie gains kicking in, it only took about 6 months for my physique to start to change. And then I remember a couple of people, 2 people in particular, going, Joseph, I really want to start going to the gym. I see you going. I see, you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger. I want to start going to the gym with you. Can I start going to the gym with you? You have to be careful with those individuals because they'll eat up your gym time as well. But you see the point I'm trying to make here, is you can be that North Star, that very positive influence with your friends. But you have to have yourself in the driver's seat. You cannot allow them to start dictating what you do, because they'll say things like, oh, let's go get a McDonald's after the gym. No, you can't allow that. You have to be in the driver's seat. Gratitude, brother. This is the real theme. Gentlemen, did you value this more long-form rambling, lecturing? Please let me know. If so, I will do more. A little experimentation with the format, the length format. I'm curious to know. Maybe you guys like listening to this on like podcast style. Anyway, these are not theories, these are facts. Speak soon.